just to explain why I'm here. I'm elected as a Labour MP over the last 27 years. I have a history of activity, both in terms of trade union activity, trade union engagement, picket lines, demonstrations, negotiations, but also community activity as well, in terms of the direct action when it comes down to decisions taken that affect my community. And with Heathrow in my constituency, we've led a now over a 40-year campaign against the destruction of our environment by the expansion of Heathrow, and in particular the development of a third runway. And that's involved the whole community rising up and taking forms of direct action linked with Climate Camp on a number of occasions, just to highlight the number of homes that would be demolished. And that was initially a very NIMBYist campaign, but 10,000 people losing their homes and their whole communities was enough to motivate them to take direct action on that cause. But as that campaign developed, it became informed by the debate about climate change, and as a result of that, became a climate change campaign as well. And we've undertaken various forms of activity, sitting down in the roads, blocking the roads at Heathrow, chaining people together on various establishments, turning up at government departments and demonstrating outside of them. And with the risk of this government now considering a third runway again, the reality is that Heathrow and the third runway, if there's an attempt for it to go ahead, it will become the iconic battleground, I think, not just in this country, but across Europe when it comes to tackling the environmental threat that we have. So that's my background. But what's, I think, been quite remarkable in this recent period is the scale of concern that there is more generally, maybe not necessarily reported in the media in the way it should be or could be. And it's on three elements, really, that Tim and Juliet and Huda have mentioned. It's this change in the political climate in recent years when it comes to accepting that demonstrating, taking direct action is part and parcel of our democratic process and has been for over a century, and if not longer. And what's happened in this recent period is on three areas, really. One is the threshold in which action is taken by the state, by legal enforcing authorities against people. The threshold has been reduced to that, so that minor demonstrations are now seen as huge, massive criminal offences, which is quite remarkable. But that is the result of conscious decisions within Parliament itself. Often, though, without members of Parliament, I have to say, fully understanding the implications of what they've agreed. The second is, and again, I can't think of other examples of this in the past. Others can remind me, but it's the suppression of the right to articulate your defence within the courts themselves, not being able to use specific words. I can't think of a precedent for that before. Others may do. But it is quite a remarkable event to happen within what we think is a liberal democracy of our own. And the third, which has shocked, I think, people beyond anyone who's had any experience in demonstrations or political activities in the past, is the brutality of the sentencing, particularly in comparison with other offences. People going down for 4 or 5 years or 3 years. And often people don't fully appreciate that a sentence like that isn't just served and then it's over. It affects one's whole life. And some people come out of prison regimes scarred for life, but also having implications for their future employment and their future freedoms, their access to travel, etc. Yep. So it's those 3 points: the lowering of the threshold for legal action against people, and the engagement in criminal accusations, the suppression of the right to defend oneself, and the brutality of the sentences. All of those, for me, militate towards that simple demand that Tim has set out. What we need now is that discussion with the Attorney General, open and transparent, about where we're at the moment, what the consequences of this are for our democracy, and how we can address those issues. And I don't think it's a massive demand, to be honest. I think it's perfectly reasonable. Can we just have that open debate? Because I think once we can have that open debate, I actually do think we can ensure that we secure change, because just like me and just like many of my constituents, people are reeling in shock about what's happening in this recent period. I want to say one final point. I hope that we can take the exhibition to Parliament itself as well, because the more policymakers see the exhibition, the more I think they'll understand our history, the more they'll understand why people are standing up in this way. And actually also, I think the more the admiration for the courage of those people are taking direct action in this way, despite all the risks.